quarterly meeting of the Parks Committee is called to order at 5:40,
32.
5:32.
That's locked.
Thank you. I don't have an agenda in front of me, so
I can give you mine.
thanks, Richland. I think usually the first thing is, has this meeting been properly noticed?
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there proof of notification?
Yes.
Thank you. Looking at the agenda now, are there any additions, corrections, changes to the agenda, or otherwise I will, does that require approval or?
We need approval of the 9-point agenda.
Do we have that approval of the 9-point agenda?
Motion to approve. I'll second it.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes from February 26th, 2025.
If there was minutes, I don't know who was taking them, and I do not know who submitted them.
Was that the meeting where we decided to split? Sandy Campbell may have been taking minutes at the time. That's when Fair and Parks were still together. I haven't received any copies of the minutes, and frankly, I believe we all left after that joined. So this will indeed be the first meeting of the Parks. So there are no minutes. Number 5, public comment.
I have public comment, but it relates to a later agenda item, so would you rather hear it now or hear it when it's agenda item number 6? Oh, 7?
I think that's one of those that's really up to the chair,
Okay.
whether you want to do that.
Has to do with the Rockridge Park.
I had a feeling that was.
You thought so?
I thought so. Why don't we then delay that discussion until we hit number 7, discussion and possible action, etc. Any other public comment?
With the C. For later. Yeah.
Report.
Okay, I'll take that. So
Thank you, Josh.
Highway has since taken the maintenance of all the parks that would fall within Richland County, and so far, maintenance, upkeep of them, mowing and cleanup of properties has been accomplished. And I feel like they're looking really good. We did complete, the tear downs of the original, bad bathrooms, if you want to call them that, and we have replaced with concrete slabs and ADA accessible porta johns. We were able to transfer some grant money that was still remaining off the bike trail to help cover those costs. So we were able to get at least 50% of those costs reimbursed, and that is including the rental of those ADA accessible units. There was some repairs made to the boat dock, kayak dock at the Rockridge Park. The Pine River Bike Trail, we are currently wrapping up some mowing on that. We have completed the spraying of that trail for the year. We still have some maintenance to do on some of the snowmobile bridges that cross down there with some broken board planks. And then we've been so far pretty close to getting trees cut off that trail as they fall down. We've been pretty responsive on that. By Ola Park, I was able to get that re-registered as a park pending water samples. Water samples were taken. One of the water samples came back bad. We do have to take a resample. We're going to try a longer time flushing out of the system, and we're going to make sure that the step-by-steps were followed when the water samples were taken, and those will be shipped down to Madison by the beginning of next week to get that done, but otherwise I got a clean bill of health. So far in the parks, we've established virtual maps, if you want to call it that, but maps that'll be put onto the park's website that'll outline the camping sites so people can positively identify them. At Rockridge, we're identifying 10 campsites that we have ordered signs. Those will be going up per location of each individual campsite. And Viola, we're establishing 9 campsites to provide ample spacing. So people know exactly where they're going, and we'll have some new signage going out there as we proceed. So at this point, I think that's what I have to report on the parks for right now.
Any comments or questions about anything Josh said? Yes,
Yeah,
Elaine.
I had a couple questions. First off is like the bike trails, for example, that's a lot of work for you guys to add that into your workload. But do you know who and when it'll happen where they're rolling the bike trail, like from Walmart to like Twin Bluffs area?
So we'll be taking care of that as we can get some more manpower. The first thing we want to try to address is that strip right behind Walmart that has that loose gravel. We want to, either we'll scrape that up and remove it, or we're just gonna add fresh material over top and try to pack it back down. But I think with the course of action we're gonna have to take is probably just to scrape up and remove it. Once that portion is relayed, then we'll look at dragging it like we do every year. Now we'll reshape that trail and make sure it stays refreshed, graded, and
Yeah, because I totally get how busy you guys are. It's amazing what all you're doing. So I was kind of curious, like, how do you even have staff to do that?
we rely heavily on a little bit of a lull, a delay in the project, bad weather, when we can transfer manpower over there.
Because I didn't know if you were waiting for kids to get out of school or what. I was just curious,
No,
how are you
it
gonna
just
fit that
depends
in?
on when we cut manpower loose.
Okay. And then the other question I had quickly was, with like, you have campsites, is that something we're gonna be able to discuss when Rockbridge girls?
That is on
come
agenda
up.
item number 7 to talk
Okay.
about those campsites.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my main concern to ask about was that this area, just as you're entering onto the unpaved portion, the unpaved trail right behind Walmart, because the song Slip Sliding Away keeps coming to my mind whenever I attempt to ride that. So I drive to Twin Bluffs and I get on there and ride. It's fun. Other than that, I have the times that I have ridden it, except for the missing / loose boards on like Bridge 10 and a few others. It's been in fairly decent condition, a little dampish in some spots, but they're not underwater and they're passable. And if people stay off of them when they're really wet, then they're a lot less bumpy. So anyway, thank you for all the work on those.
That's one question.
Yes.
Will porta potties be there year round?
Rockbridge is
Yeah.
their part, technically, we're gonna try to leave there.
Okay. But the one
That
in
could
Davis,
change.
I've noticed, there's
That could
people there all
change.
the time.
Yeah, that could change, because technically the park camping does cease. And,
Sure.
And to continue in that vein, item number 7, unless there are any other questions or comments.
I should just mention, you know, how it looked like a tornado from Twin Bluffs to Vitesnik Motors area there a year ago. You know, it looks great right now. So you guys really needed to do what you did. People were complaining it looked horrendous, but now this spring it looks fabulous and it's really nice to have it clear through there.
well, the big thing with that is when we do that in the winter months, there's none of that fresh growth coming back up. So when we come in there with clear cut and grind up all that trees and the branches and debris and so on and so forth, it's gonna look bad. It just takes time for the growth to come back and recover that and be able to mow and reestablish that as a old brush back area.
Well, it
So
looks
we've got
great.
one that works before it looks better.
Yeah, so thank whoever did all that because it's great. Yeah. thank
Yeah,
you.
it really lightened up the canopy.
Yeah, it's great.
Overhanging it as well. So that's good. So on to item number 7 then, discussion and possible action, registration fees and use of parks.
I would recommend if you guys have things you want to bring forward and talk about the parks, so put those on the table, and then I can follow up with what I was kind of thinking.
Me to go ahead?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I had sent an email to Elaine and to Carrie and actually to Marty Rich as well. I do hikes at the park where I do informative, the geology and the Native American history and the social history and so on of parks. And sometimes those people schedule them ahead of time. I've had homemakers groups and 4-H groups and families and kayaking groups or whatever, we'll schedule it ahead. Sometimes I'll just be riding my bike down there and somebody looks interested and I'll say, would you like to know about the history? So that happens quite often. And so lately, people have said that they've seen it on Facebook and they wanted to come and see the park. But there's always somebody parked right by the natural bridge and not always, but weekends, right in front of the natural bridge. and sometimes right in front of the tunnel, sometimes right in front of the informative signs that are out by the porta potties at the front. Friend said, asked to take a tour this weekend, and I sent some written material that I had, but he and his family came and they said, we walked right through somebody's campsite because we wanted to see the natural bridge, and it was awkward, but that's what we did. They were very complimentary about how well it's taken care of as you go through the tunnel to the other side of the tunnel. And so my thought is that if this is something that's on Facebook and there are so many likes and so many people coming because they want to see it, we don't want it to look trashy and we don't want them to have to walk through a campsite. So I sent some questions to our committee members and to Marty. Where do campers register and pay now that the store is closed? The tourism website I looked at still says to register at the store. The store is closed now. Does the county get any revenue from this park? With no dumpster there, where do people put their garbage? How is extended camping enforced? If somebody, if homeless person, family, wants to stay there longer, how's that enforced? How do they even know what the camping period is? Who monitors how long people can camp there? Does the sheriff's department manage this? Wouldn't it make sense to set up some no camping areas around those sites, or even to declare it a day use only site, no overnight parking? But it seems to me that right around the natural bridge, which has been there for millions of years, and the tunnel, which incidentally, I was the first person through the tunnel in 1967. I had to scramble out on the rocks to take a picture of the first men coming through the tunnel. But it's, an awesome site. And we really want that to be a key feature of the county. The stairway that goes up is on a lot of county websites and so on. We want that to be accessible to people, and it's been very well taken care of, but I do have those questions about it. So I think it's great to see the old bathrooms gone. Perfect. Will the porta potties go on that concrete pad?
They should have already been moved on to that pad as of Monday. I contacted Nature's Way because I needed time for that pad to kind of
Yeah,
cure in
that's
the grass.
Yeah,
And they said they were gonna have their guy move it up on the
yeah.
pad.
Well, it wasn't there when I drove through yesterday, but I thought you'd taken care of that.
Okay.
Is there any plan for planting some trees or something around that pad?
No, we'll just let the
Yeah.
grass grow there.
Well, that is another thing that I think it'd be nice if more attention could be paid to aesthetics in the park. I mean, I don't think that it has to be mowed everywhere. There could be some prairie kind of areas. So I think that would be nice. I've said that to the park committee before, but I know that's asking a lot. But I just do think that it's something that it's a signature thing for our county, and it would be nice if we could do as much as possible to maintain it that way. So that's my thoughts on it.
Could I get you to ask your questions one at a time and I'll try to respond to them?
Sure, and maybe Misha lives right next to the park, and Laura lives just another house up, Sharon lives at the store, so they probably got items too, but how do campers register? How do you know, how do they know they're supposed to go wherever to register?
So right now, it's been passed on through word of mouth. Sharon was a good one about telling them, but they have to come to the highway department now and in person pay for their tickets to be there.
And how do they do that after hours?
They don't.
All right,
What we actually struggle with there, leading up to a future conversation is, we have no way to be able to police or monitor who is coming and going from those grounds. We have one parks technician that is dedicated to making sure those parks stay mowed. But we do not have staff available to operate Fridays, weekends, after hours to check on everybody that's down there, prove everybody is paid. And $10, frankly, we've made more money on donations than we have on camping passes.
yeah, that's what I wondered about. How does the county get any revenue for the park? Was extended camping enforced, and only if there's a complaint?
If there's a complaint and we catch on people are overstaying their welcome, first we'll try to make contact with them, but 9 times out of 10, I'll contact the sheriff's department to go deal with those individuals and ask them to vacate the property.
And what is the length of time that they can?
If memory serves me right, and somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 2 weeks and then you have to leave for a week or something and then you can come back again.
See, I remember it week, but that's way back, so. When I was doing, that's what I would tell people.
And then, what do you think about the idea of some no camping areas. I mean, I would hope that you wouldn't set up a campsite that's right next to the natural bridge or right next to the tunnel when you're marking off those campsites.
The campsites that we have identified are actually past the bridge and over to the right. So if you're standing there going down, driving down that path, let's say that, when you get to the end, the first campsite that's available closest to that rock is going to be over to the right. So as you go through the tunnel, you're not walking through someone's campsite. Then when you get through the tunnel, the first campsite would be identified off to the right again.
Okay.
So you're not, wouldn't be walking through anybody's campsites. All the campsites will be in the big grass area that's closest to the creek, minus the one that's just a little bit on the other side of there.
Okay, and then would it be possible to put something to make it impossible for somebody to set up camp there? Because there are people that have done it for years. There used to be a no camping sign there when that was the kayak landing.
The best we could do is probably just put no camping signs in those areas. We don't want people camping. Understand that campsites, 1 to 10 are where you camp.
Okay. So there are 10 sites on the,
Rock Bridge is identified with the DNR as a 1 through 20, I believe, number of campsites you can have. We felt as though the spacing issues after walking through there, 10 would be ideal. And because, 10 campsites with a large enough area, if you have a large family or group coming in there, they can all be on one site together. But 10 would be the ideal to keep spacing and not overwhelm that park.
so are some of those 10, when you walk through the tunnel and go across the old snowmobile bridge under the rock over there, those are some, that's included in the 10?
Yes.
Okay. Well, those are my questions, but,
Elaine?
Yeah, I had a question. If we didn't want camping in front of the rock formation, would we have to contact the DNR to get that redone for campsites? Because there's plenty of room in the back. I was just curious why
No.
we couldn't do day use in front and camping in the back.
In fact, that would not have to go to the DNR. That would have to be something that would be recommended for out of this committee that would go to Public Works, and then it would have to be clearly defined on the virtual maps that we're putting together. And signs would have to be placed at the facility showing that there's no camping, this side camping, signs direct them to where to go to their camp spots. But having 10 campsites in back would be definitely probably people would literally be walking through each other's campsites to get to their home. We'd almost have to reduce the number of campsites down to 5.
Because when I went out there, I met some people that were camping on the backside. They were lovely. They cleaned up after themselves. They were good campers. But it's even though you have good campers, I just don't necessarily like it when you're going up Highway 80 heading towards Hub City and you see people and all that going on in front of the beautiful rock formation. I just think I can see camping maybe closer to where the kayak places where you put in, maybe a couple there that wouldn't affect it any, but people go there, they do senior pictures and everything, and it's just I never thought it was appropriate to have that there. Just
So again, that would be a want of this committee to take forward. You guys could decide that, and then eventually it would end up in a resolution from the county board, and it would be done and over with. Garbage was a good thing that was brought up too. We stopped putting dumpsters out there because people were taking advantage of those dumpsters and damaging those dumpsters. So it's a big cost to the county just to put dumpsters out there. We found is people that maybe lived around the area were doing house remodels and then they're debris and.
Oh, yeah, free number.
And then we end up having to send heavy equipment just to clean up the excess trash. So it's required now, when you leave, you take your trash.
If state parks do that now too, bring it in, take it up, yeah, that's good.
so you said they were good campers. And I asked Nisha and Laura, who live right there, how many good campers are there compared to the ones that abuse the privilege? And that abuse happens on weekends, so there's nobody from the highway department. So you guys should speak to that. Yeah.
Right.
I patrol park right now. I'm in charge of that because I'm the one that hears everything, that sees everything. It's 50 feet from me when I'm in my yard. So, I feel like there's a lot more usage of that park that could be charged for than is being taken advantage of right now. So I think if there were better ways to rent, to do the camp, there's almost always people there camping. The first opening weekend of trout fishing is huge. And those people are there for 7 or 8, 9, 10 nights. $10 a night per would be a lot of money. I also think you could rent out the shelter for parties and events. Because right now campers take that over.
Could I kind of address?
Yeah,
that?
absolutely.
So a while ago, it was established through a resolution and through the Richland Park Committee, however many years ago, that it's a first come, first served basis.
Okay.
So I've had lots of requests, people calling out businesses that want to do an event down there that would like to be able to reserve that, and we don't have that right to do because it's a
Okay.
first come, first served.
Okay.
So
But
that's.
people are
that's-
camping in it. There's groups that like come in and swarm around it so that the community can't use it.
And that's why we really strongly suggested establishing actual campsites with signs. And
Yes.
laying that out on a digital map that will eventually be put on parks, so get to them later discussion.
That, I like that idea a lot. And maybe like an area that says no camping beyond this point might be something to keep people from like in front of the tunnels directly in that area. I would say the vast majority of the campers are good campers. I only have to end up calling the sheriff out maybe a couple times a year. And usually I'm usually able, if it's music after 10, if they're being loud and rowdy, usually if I'll just say, hey, can you turn it down? They are good about it. If not, then I call the sheriff. But are there quiet hours?
After 10 PM, I believe it's.
So is that's the official?
Well, it's not identified as actually quiet hours, it's when all days people have to be gone.
I think quiet hours would be really, it would just make sense. I hear every single word in my living room that people speak by the wall over there because the way it reflects the sound off. So, and when they're playing music really loudly, I don't want that concert going on in my living room. But otherwise, people have been respectful, they've been quiet, they've been clean. There haven't been issues for the most part. There's definitely homeless or folks without homes that are finding their way there, and none of them have been a problem. But I don't feel like I know any resources or ways to help them either, and I don't necessarily want to just run them off. They're not doing anything wrong, so.
Unless they're overstaying their 2 weeks.
Right, but where else do they go then? So,
We have had that problem at the Viola Park.
yes,
In
I've
the past.
about it. Yeah.
And very recently at the fairgrounds where I've literally had the sheriff's department come out and tell them it's time to go.
Yeah,
And then they wanted to move to the Rockridge Park, and that was a hard no.
right.
Yeah. A county park is a county park is a county park.
Yeah.
So basically,
Oh, I'm sorry, have they addressed, have we addressed all
I
of
think
this?
so, yeah, I think I'm looking forward to seeing the signs up and some indication that,
The signs have arrived there.
yeah, my concern is that when fishing season comes around and people that have been camping there for years, right by the Natural Bridge, are gonna be back there.
Yeah.
And that's happened even when there was a no camping sign right there, when the kayak landing was there. And they said, we've been camping here for years, and they were right by the no camping sign.
Yeah.
And, I don't wanna take them on,
Right.
but, there should be some way we could address that kind of thing.
Because with Sharon, it was very handy when there was a really loud, obnoxious group. And I called her the next day and said, hey, I had to call the sheriff twice. Is there any way we can have these folks not come back? And she said, of course. And so that would be, if somebody gets the police called on them enough, maybe they are no longer allowed to.
How could that be?
There have been there have been people, through the year that were mentally ill and, had to be told that they were never allowed again. Well, when I was doing permits, I knew who they were. So when they came to the park, then I would tell them, you have to be, it was nice when the store was doing it.
Right.
Because, I took people to the hospital, there was a lot that we did, but, and I can't, I guess, do it forever.
Right now.
And I don't hear any of the noise where we live. Right, that's one thing. I know it happens because people before you that lived in those two houses complain
Oh,
over the years.
yeah. It's weird what the sound does out there, for sure.
Now, most of the comments that we have been discussing, have been about the use of the parks. And a little bit about registration. Josh?
I have a lot more to add to that after we've heard a lot of the comments. So the big things that we're running into is exactly what people have had identified, you know, how do you manage that park and have people camping in there? How do you collect payment? How is this all gonna happen? So the first thing that we really need to look at doing, you know, with the stuff that's been put on the table, do you wanna continue with camping at Rock Ridge? Or any of the parks, or do you just wanna have them as day use facilities? I mean, that's the first question to ask yourself. The second question is, okay, let's say we wanna continue forward with camping, you know, $10 is really not enough for the amount of maintenance the county puts into tax dollars that are going into with no kind of revenue to offset it minus the donations given. So I think the price for camping needs to be addressed. Then third of all, okay, how do you collect payment, you know, provide a 24-hour a day, 7 days a week service to get payment? And my recommendation, which is already halfway done, and we put it at a standstill until we have some answers, is going to a website form. So what would happen is we would take it away from physically going anywhere in person to take that payment and proceeding forward with an online platform, a website based off the park, link off the park's website where people have to go to pay for their campsite and keep a receipt that they, you know, paid for their camping. In which case, it would be a sign that would have to be a sign put up at Rock Ridge with step-by-step instructions where they need to go, and hopefully they have cell phone service to make the reservation. And okay, so we went forward with that idea. We raised up the camping price to like a nationwide average or local average is $23 per night at camping. You know, again, how do you monitor that? How do you verify people have paid and not just showing up and, you know, people know that you gotta pay. There's been people there that have been made aware, you need to go to the highway department, do it, and they just ignore it altogether.
Yep.
So how are you going to monitor that? How are you gonna have an actual county official be able to enforce that other than, no offense or anything, a neighbor that lives right there saying, I haven't seen you before, I'm gonna call the cops on you, and then we have lots of law enforcement.
Unless they have to post the notice or post it on their camping stuff somewhere.
But then they'd have to have access to
That's true.
paper or printer.
Printer, yeah.
Cause that could have, taken the payment, that could be totally a virtual thing and be processed and done, but then how do you monitor that? And how do you monitor the length? The county doesn't have staff nor the funds to add staff,
Right.
somebody that just drives around checking it, you know,
Right.
this is not a possibility. So I think those are decisions put on the table, what you guys wanna do with, you know, future camping. We don't have the ability to expand anymore, add power, add sewer, add more water, and draw more people in. You could turn it into another alternative, which I've kind of thrown around, make it free to camp there. Donations, we make more money off donations than we ever will on camping, so if you wanna draw people into this county and your whole plan is to bring more people, outsiders coming in, and I've heard there's a lot of want for that on Facebook, make it a, free camping, put a time length on it, obviously, something, and then encourage donations.
I was wondering about that. Do you get any? Because when, a lot of times people come into camp, the highway department's not open. So I'll tell them that there's a tube out there that they can throw a donation in. Do you get much in there?
From Rock Ridge,
Yeah.
I think a max I've seen come out of Rock Ridge in like a month, is maybe a month. If that. We actually make more money at the rifle range on donations and the Ash Creek Community Forest. I think we've averaged $200 there. The highest I think is almost $300 we got in most worth of donations on those parks. That'd be the only other way to do it, to lessen the liability and frankly, what we don't have for staff and the ability to actually monitor. But again, that's the decision that you guys would have to throw as a recommendation for Public Works to carry on. I mean, however you guys want to do it, we'll do it. But these are the things that we're seeing at a year into this, highway department and guys like me and Randy that are there in the field. We're just like, I'm not just sitting in my office all day. I'm out there clearing trees and helping with whatever I can in those parks. So those are the parts we need to discuss, guys.
What kind of revenue was made last year on Rock Ridge Park? Do we have any idea?
I'd have to run the account information. There wasn't much revenue.
Well, looks like Tricia's.
I mean, I would, to me, go through the expense of, like, the city has a QR code at some of their campsites that you scan and you register for that site, right? Which is great, but I don't know if the cell phone service in Rockbridge isn't the best. So by the time you go through and do all the signs and have all this expense, and then have somebody come and check every once in a while, or, you know, would you be better off, like you said, just make it free, first come, first serve, and you're limited to 4 nights or 5 nights or whatever, and call it good, because you're gonna have the expense of mowing it anyway and
Yeah.
pumping the toilets.
I can confidently say the revenue we saw from Rockbridge Park alone was probably less than $9.
Yeah.
So I think as a fair workaround, again, that's if you guys want to maintain opening it for camping or just resorting back to a day use park. I mean, you guys gotta talk about that. That was put on the table to discuss, and I think, you know, everybody's got to arrive at a consensus on that one.
My sense would be if you say free camping, you're opening up all kinds of.
Free for all, free for all,
You know,
doesn't
when there's
sound.
a weekend thing going on, like Crew Monster thing, or the truck thing at Hub City, the things that go on at Hub City. I think you run into, you know, on those weekends, and other times there are parties going on too, that it seems to me if it's free camping, it's opening up a can of worms, but there's a lot of people that would enjoy it. Kayakers like to come up the night before and get an early start, so, and I don't know,
Just having lived in more dangerous areas, I would say having people registered and knowing who's there is really good for security and safety of the community and the people around there and the other people at the campground. When we don't know who they are and they're just slipping in and out. I mean, I've had some shady folks over there that I've wondered what the heck was going on for sure. And yeah, so I don't want to live next to another like drug den party place, like hookup spot. Like I've lived next to that place before, and I would really prefer this place to be clean, beautiful, presentable, safe for families that come there. There's the little bitty kids from the Mennonite school come there. Like I don't want them finding a needle or, you know, like I want to keep people safe that are there. I worry about opening it up too much. It just invites all of those issues to come there too. So
Members of the committee, what are your feelings?
Well,
Making it day use only versus no fee versus continuing with a fee?
the easiest would be
Besides.
day use only,
That would
and
be
the park's
the,
closed at 10 PM or whatever time you set, I mean.
I would say 10 PM in the summer, you know,
Right.
when it's open, is a good time. That's dark. I mean, if you went that way, I'm not trying to steer you in
No,
one
no.
direction. I'm just putting things on the table to talk
Right.
about.
it is easiest and without having Marty or someone from Greater Richland area tourism here, I think one of the things that group has been working on is adding to the number of campsites available within the county, or at least maintaining and providing increased amenities in the areas where camping is licensed.
it's, without porta potties on that other side of the rock, where most of the campsites are, you're probably not gonna have a lot of people coming all the way through the tunnel and to use the porta potty or around the end through the front yards of the people that live there. So that's an issue, just hygiene.
Are you suggesting another porta potty on the other side?
I don't know,
or-
you know, I mean, I think if you're gonna have that, a few campsites over there, you almost have to have some kind of access to eliminations.
Well, I know when we had the porta potty chained to the light pole down there, that 100% of the people that had been there previous times, especially the ladies, really appreciated having that.
close by.
On the back side of the rock,
No, right there at the front, they would walk through from the backside, but They,
It
But
was
that
right
was
there.
not from those farther sites where you have to go across the little bridge,
Yes,
you know, the snowmobile
Right,
bridge.
yes.
there would be,
And that's-
there would be a catch to putting a porta john on the backside of the rock face. How do you get a truck back there to get them out? How do you get them out of there in time of a flood or
So
something?
Right, that would have
it's
to be
been
at
clear
the-
all is a question.
unpaved,
Correct. It would
Park.
have to
They
be
have
where
the
you get
paved
set.
area where you
Yeah.
park back there.
What's that?
That, the only option you would probably have is where you pull in back there where you can park and then you have to walk.
You'd have to still walk that.
I mean,
distance
that
on
would be
paved.
the only place you'd have to put it.
Right.
yeah, the company that put that one that was chained to the pole only one time was contacted and they went down and got it out before got it up to higher ground before the flood came and it never reached as high as it had previously, where they set it probably, where they had a little water in it, but that's what they're designed to handle. I don't know, I like the idea of, the more camping available in our county.
I can say, as a downfall to doing that, and again, I'm not either side of the fence here, you will have large people screaming that we took camping away because of the trout fishing, because of the seasonal time of year, but they like the convenience of being able to park there at Rockbridge, but there are campsites within this county that are technically losing revenue when we're taking the revenue from them, that we're competing with those local businesses.
So you're talking about the private campgrounds.
Private
that are
campgrounds, yeah.
available.
You know, like the Fireside on Lone Rock and then the other one just off County Road A,
Yeah.
Cover Bridge. Yeah.
What about Bunker Hill? Do they charge? No, that's free.
That's the knowledge.
Do they offer camping up there still?
There are all kinds of campers parked up there around. They
Yeah,
have a
but-
big
It's
festival.
not official.
It's
Yeah.
not official.
I'm just saying, because
That's private.
John makes a good point. I mean, you're bringing people into the county if you have a campground for use, especially if you open it up free, you're gonna draw a lot of people there. Again, there's no way to monitor that. That's the big downfall from the financial budgetary standpoint of the county. We do not have the resources to monitor that and take care of that period. That's the cold hard truth of it.
I definitely feel people would be sad. There's people you can tell, it's like almost a generational thing. They do this every single year and it's part of their family ritual. And so I know that many people would be really upset, but I'm also hearing that we don't have the resources to cover it, whether they register and pay or whether they don't. So I would just stay with the same situation of registering and getting as much as we can versus free for all, opening it up and having word get out that this is the only free camping place in the county.
The thing about turning it free is that you're taking away from the Fireside, Lana Springs out here.
Yeah.
So free is probably not the best way to go.
Are the campsites available for use, renting, whatever, at the fairgrounds considered part of the same?
It's the same purview of this committee. I mean, camping and parks, I mean, that falls under the same purview. And honestly, tent camping's gotta go away from the fairgrounds. Every time we have people come in there and camp, it does not end well at all. Like I said, last group that came in there, I literally had to go down there with the sheriff's department and have them removed from the property, and they left everything behind. We still had to go pick up all their stuff
Right.
for them and trash it.
Yeah.
How many campsites are available there?
Oh, gosh, there's quite a few.
That's what I thought.
The only time we'd allow camping there, I think, is during the major events, like when the fairgrounds is booked out for the use of a private event, or during the time of fair, rodeo, or, something along those. Then camping's fine, but any other time of year, it's not a pretty picture.
Would you charge a night out at the fairgrounds?
I don't have those numbers in front of me.
That's fine.
Yeah. I usually let Lyrica handle that out there. I think it's like $10. I think it was the same across the board.
That is just over on the east side of the road.
Back by
And
where the-
field,
the
where
the-
kayaks is.
Electrical is, people would tent camp and plug into the electrical.
Yeah.
Rockbridge, they actually plug into one of my ice machines, like sneak up there. And they plug their phones in and they'll blow up their mattress. So it's been that way for years. I mean, I can't use that much electricity, so it wasn't a big deal. But they always find a way.
Part of the agreement if you still.
So, and Lou, I think, I mean, we have more negatives towards the continued camping. I think the easiest solution to all this, and again, budgetarily, financially, for the county standpoint, would be just make it a day use facility.
That would be my recommendation to the county board.
Day use
Yeah,
only?
day use only.
Would you like to make that a motion
I'll make that
formally?
motion that we
Do-
change Rockbridge Park to day use only and eliminate camping altogether.
Would you do that at Viola as well, or would you want Viola to have camping there?
It's the same issue in Viola as it is in Rock.
Well, we might have an issue with Viola because of the water.
And that's new well.
Right.
I don't know what's going on there yet.
So I would make both them sites for now, day use only. And if we want to reevaluate it at another time, we'll reevaluate it at another time.
There's a motion on the floor to make both Viola and Rockbridge Parks day use only. I need a second before we discuss it any further.
Well, you can make a second.
I don't necessarily, well, if I don't agree, I can still second it.
Can I ask a question?
Just a minute. I will second the motion. Or you could have seconded the motion too, because you remember.
I do my second.
Okay, it's been made, well, the motion has been made and seconded to, change Rockbridge and Viola Parks to day use only. Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, I was just wondering, I'd like to see day use only for part of the park. But I also feel that people that go to Rockbridge that are respectable campers should be able to use the backside of the park. That's my feeling on it. I don't know, how did you girls feel about that?
Well,
It's your area.
it's such a good point that there are families who have been doing this for generations.
Right.
Such a good point, and there are many good campers there. So I guess I would be comfortable with making sure that there is not camping by the entrance to the tunnel and by the natural bridge. If there's camping in other places, I think that should be charged. I think there should be a charge for it, so the county gets some revenue. And it sounds like the website would be the way to go on that. And you've already got the equipment together to set up those campsites. So in a sense, it's almost good to give it a trial to see if that's gonna be a good way to handle it. And then bring it back in a year or so and we find that there are problems or, that's just my opinion. I'm not a board member.
The
So-
only other issue that comes up is nighttime. There's tons of graffiti.
Yeah.
There's tons of kids that get in there at night and paint everything all up. And so
Yeah.
even if it's day use only,
Do
there's,
that during the day, I thought people.
oh, I know. Like even mom, dad, like the whole family's doing it. I'm like, oh my God.
Please do not sign the rocks.
Yes, please.
Any other?
So I talked to Jody Meenan at the city parks and asked her about their system. And asked her if in the future, with discussions possibly with the county, if she had any interest at all in their site being the site that would manage all camping in the city and the county. She didn't feel that there would be an issue or that the Parks Board would stop that conversation. And she said, as long as we don't have to patrol it, that we're just, we take money in and we just work out.
Where it goes.
Yeah, $2, $2 a registration goes to the city for their maintenance of their thing, and then the rest of it gets transferred to the county.
Say something. I'm from the Viola area, so I see the Viola Park out there. I think it would really hurt the businesses in town if there is not camping the whole week or week at a time, because those trout fishermen come in and they spend a lot of money. They spend a lot of money at those gas stations and for food and the businesses and in the area, so I think you take that to a day use, you're gonna hurt a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the day use is great for some things, but for some of those areas like that, they depend on that money, you know? Those trout fishermen, I mean, you can see 20 people out there on a weekend or for a week, you know,
Yeah.
and the mushroom hunters and all those people, they come in and they bring in lots of money to the area. So it's like, I hate to see that to a day use, but now you're gonna scare them all off and then you're not gonna have that money coming in.
So just for a little history, we had a discussion about transferring the Viola, Richland County Viola Park back to Village of Viola. Because in the contract, that's what it says. If the county doesn't want to operate it as a park anymore,
Right.
then it transfers back. And your group came up and said, we don't want it. And they said, we struggle to generate enough revenues at our own campsites, Viola.
Yeah.
Which is not in Richland County.
Right.
It's just across that line.
Just across the line.
So, the fishermen would find a way down there.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's just it.
And, cause I'm gonna say, when I go there and I talk to the fishermen, they're like, there's nothing this cheap in the world to camp with this much beauty.
Yeah.
And I said, would you pay $30? And I,
Granted,
absolutely.
And granted,
And then at Rockbridge, same conversation. The retired law enforcement and firefighters that came there for years and years, every year would say, gosh, I hope you don't stop camping here. And I said, throw in the donation, and they did.
I mean,
There's
there's
generated $300 one month.
90% of the cars that are at the Viola Park, in town and out of town, both parks, are Illinois. I mean, they spend a lot of money up here. So it's like, you go to the day use, you're gonna chase all those people out of here. Then they're gonna go someplace else and spend the money. They'll go into Vernon County and spend it. You know, they'll find someplace in Vernon County, because I mean, there's tons of trout streams. They'll find another place.
I'm gonna go ahead and call the question.
Yeah, I have
unless
one
there's
question.
anything different.
There won't be a campsite right out by the porta potties, only by the steps and there's no campsite
No,
that close. Okay, you will find people that set up their campsites right there, because, under the rock
It's
cliff,
easy.
and it's easy, yeah, it's
And there's
close
the
to the.
protection of the
It's
cliff.
it's the closest one to the porta potty, so, what are you gonna do about people that camp in places other than the marked campsites? I think that's a concern to me, by those informational signs, by the town, by the
Right.
National Grid.
So that's where we're at. We don't have anybody to patrol.
That's right, yeah.
we can, and again, we can easily proceed forward with leaving them as the campground and doing whatever we can to try to get some payment, but everybody has to understand that there will be no way to monitor that in this light. And if they come in on a weekend, decide not to pay, there's nobody gonna hold them accountable for it, period. I mean, again, you can move forward, keep it as a campground, that's fine. Just make sure you understand that there will be nobody to police them on this.
And you can put up all the signs in the world, sites, this, maps or whatever. People will do what people wanna do.
And if they drive an hour and a half to come camp in Rockbridge and they get there and all 10 identified campsites are filled up, they're gonna set up wherever they want.
Yep, and if it's raining, they'll get underneath that rock.
Well, they'll do that anyway,
Right, yeah, I mean, it's just the way that people
All
are.
our campsites in the world, but I wanna be under the rock.
So unless county doesn't, unless you hire somebody on and give them a pickup and pay them the overtime hours, to drive around on the weekends and keep going back and forth between there's no way you're gonna be able to control any of that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Right, with a registration program online,
Again, if somebody has to be back in the
the
office.
county would know which sites have been taken. And so if you go out there and there's, 5 sites showing that they've been paid for and 10 sites are occupied.
Yeah.
5 sites that aren't paid for on the website so that would be, the only way that you
That's
can
the only
quickly,
way you can.
quickly do it.
Yeah, but But again,
So we
if
had-
they're coming in on the weekend and nobody's in the office,
Yep.
who's gonna be able to monitor that system to see who paid and when they paid?
Right.
That's just, you just realize that.
The only way is if they're disturbing the peace or something like that, yeah.
Take a chance, get what you can.
We're going to be arrested if they're.
It's my opinion. It hasn't been terrible anyway, you know, it's rare that a problem comes up, so I.
It's Sharon's fault, you retired.
You're feeling bad.
Like, don't turn out.
No.
Sorry.
I'm gonna go ahead and call the question. There is a motion on the floor currently to switch Rockbridge and Viola Parks to day use only. It has been made and seconded. There's been some discussion. All identified members of the Parks Committee can vote on the question. All in favor of making it day use making them both day use only, signify by saying aye.
I made the motion, so I'm gonna.
All not in favor?
Aye.
Or nay, I should say.
Nay,
All,
yeah.
all not in favor say. So we have 1 aye and 3 nays. They will, right now anyway, continue to be designated for camping, with some of the improvements that we've discussed. And we'll continue to work on
And the fees are already set.
The fees, that'll be part 2 of this.
part 2. Maybe that's what's next. Part 2 will be.
We could discuss that tonight.
We can
because it's
dis-
on the agenda.
It is on the agenda tonight. So we've talked about registration. We've talked about use, and we will go on to fees.
I think $10 needs to be readdressed. I think it needs to be brought up to fair standards of what we're seeing through other places. I would recommend at least $25 as a fee for it.
I would say Josh put the homework in, so he knows what other places are paying, so,
And what the market will bear.
yep, so I would just go with this.
$25 per night.
Motion by John to make it $25 per night. for
Yes.
Camping at Viola and Rockbridge Parks. Second,
I'll second that.
thank you, Eric. Any further discussion on fees? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Could we talk about, since it's in there,
Yep.
length of time we're allowing campers to be there? Because obviously that's not a in stone kind of thing. How long we want to let people camp there before their time is up,
City is 14 days.
consecutive days?
I believe it is consecutive.
Yeah, it is. I don't know, I think you'd give more people opportunity to camp if you went 7 days.
You know, I used to do that before. I've done on 7 days, you gotta leave, so.
Yeah.
I'd agree with 7.
You get more money.
I don't think I've ever seen a place.
I think it's great. Less time that we, if we give them 14 days, then that's almost out of sight, out of mind. You forget they're even there next year, they've been there 2 months.
Want to make that a motion, Eric? 7 days, or Elaine?
I had a question, because I get this asked a lot. I'd like the counties to be the same as the cities, because apparently they can stay so long and then they have to leave and then they can come back again. I just think we need to know what the cities is, because then, I don't think they should be different, because that's confusing to people.
I don't
I don't-
think it's confusing,
no.
because the city and county are separate.
Oh, they're separate, so you think, okay.
Yep.
I'm just saying, I get asked that, and it's like, some people don't know the difference, that there is city parks and there's county parks.
Yeah, I get that
Okay,
a lot.
we should just separate that then.
So we have a,
I'll make a motion that you're allowed to camp at Viola and Rockbridge 7 consecutive days before you have to leave.
can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, John. Motion has been made and seconded to make the length of stay at both Viola and Rockbridge Parks 7 consecutive days and nights. Any further discussion on that?
Might amend it to say you can't register for a spot for 7 days after that.
There you go. Something like that, because that's what the city does. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Is that amend amendment
I
satisfied?
agree.
I don't know if that's quite,
Thank you.
Robert's rules, but motion has been made and seconded then to, the motion has been amended to include that after the 7 days and nights are over, you can't re-register for another campsite for 7 days after that.
Correct. We'll vote on the amendment.
Any further discussion on that?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good.
And then we should vote on, that was the amendment.
That was the
And
amendment.
then vote on
Okay.
the 7 days camping.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded and then amended, and the amendment has been approved that camping at Rockbridge and Viola Parks be for a total of 7 days, consecutive days, followed by a period of 7 days where you're not allowed to register again. That was the amendment. Any further discussion on that?
Would it be not at that specific location or at any,
At
that
any-
7
at
day
any
period?
county.
Any
Okay.
county
So
park.
maybe specifying that in the yellow list.
Maybe, and.
Any
at
county
park. Which might drive some to the other local camping areas, because there could be a list
Yeah, or they
or on the
register
website.
in the husband's name one day and the wife's
Oh.
name the next day, or, that's the way to work around it, if you really have to camp more than 7 days.
All in favor?
Aye.
Don't camp.
Yeah.
You probably have to mow that park every 7 days anyway, don't you?
Well, a good point was made on that. So in 7 days, by making that motion, taking it forward, when our guy shows up there once a week, he can almost identify who's been there for a week and if they're overstaying. Well, so that will help.
Right.
Awesome.
They actually could save some money by not mowing every week too. All summer when it was so, last summer when it was so dry, they mowed every single week and it was so dry. I thought,
Anything else that we need to attend to, Josh?
I can't think of anything this time, unless anybody has any. Well, they've done, got that as next month's.
Yeah,
or next
right.
meeting.
And I do have one future agenda item to add. The future agenda item that I have been asked to add for discussion has been the issue of tobacco use, of tobacco of any kind use in county parks. So I would like to add that for discussion. The city just adopted that as an ordinance, and it's logical to extend at least that discussion, to have that at the county parks, on the county parks agenda too. Josh, anything else for for future agenda? Or Eric or Elaine or?
I don't have anything else for the future agenda, and I want to say I really appreciate the directive, so I can actually proceed forward with some of this stuff, because we've hit that point where I needed to get your guys' opinion on it. Just understand it's gonna take a little time, because from
Yep.
here, it's gotta go in front of Public Works, which will be slated for next month, and from there, all the way up into county board resolution has to be drafted, and we can actually proceed. And then with the online website, yes, MIS is currently working on it, but it's gonna take them time as they are overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Before they can actually pay due attention to that, to finish that website, and then I bring in the online, payment and connect everything together. So please be patient on that. It's gonna take some time to do. Our IT department, again, is always pretty well overwhelmed.
I was just gonna ask for an approximate timeline on at least getting it as far as the county board resolution drafting and presentation.
I would say by the end of July.
And this, we agreed at our meeting when asked, how often we thought we needed to meet. I believe we said quarterly.
Yes.
So we wouldn't meet again until August or September anyway.
But Josh is always
Yeah.
available for text, email, if we got questions.
And and I would like to reiterate the fact, like, when administration changed, and again,
Yeah,
um,
not again for a while.
people didn't know what their roles were. They didn't know how long committees were gonna survive. There was always threats of everything going on. You guys need to know I'm here. If you have a thought or concern you would like to address and talk about, email me at the bare minimum, or come and visit me at the highway department. I'm usually there. There's rarely a time that I'm not unless I'm at a conference for work or a meeting across town.
Or ripping out trees.
That's it. So again, please reach out to me with any thoughts or concerns, things you want to take forward for an idea so we can talk about.
So has any more work been done on the two bridges on the bike trail that are left to redeck? Has any, work applied for, or?
No grants have been gone after, nothing has been done with them.
Yeah, I have a question. I've been sitting on an issue since you first emailed me with the mowing issue, since you guys are busy, and I know that for a fact. I just wonder, you girls live there and you watch over the park. When it needs mowed, it's like if they come out there weekly and they don't need to be there, you know. I mean, I wonder if you just couldn't get his number and say, hey, skip it this week.
Oh,
Is that too much,
I
or
would want to do that.
you wouldn't want to? Because I know there's an issue with the mowing, and it's like, I don't even care about mowing lawn, because I have animals, they do it for me. But
I'm guessing you have a schedule all put together.
you have an automatic schedule, no matter what, you do that.
Unless the weather dictates differently.
Just- Make sure things get done.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to
He goes-
handle that complaint, because I'm not.
He does go out there every week. He may not mow everything or mow every week, but he at least goes out there to check on it. And there are areas that, if the driest of dry, there's some, everybody that's been there knows, there's some swamp areas back there where there's always running water, and that grass continues to grow. So he has to touch up some areas to keep.
Well, I know it looked good when I was there, but I don't know what I'm doing there looking at it.
It's generally a once a week he goes there unless he gets tied up with something at another park or, and he can't make it there that week, but it's generally once.
So
Okay,
we
thanks.
still mow Akey School?
We do that, that's Brent Thielman, the same guy that mows Rock Ridge mows all the county parks, including Ash Creek.
Boat landing.
And the boat landing.
Boat landings.
Clear down to Port
Fairgrounds,
Yeah.
all the fairgrounds.
That's
Orion, all
That's
this,
all right.
I don't know how they get it done.
And one,
3
One-
days, generally.
one more, person that lives down near Port Andrews was so happy to see the dumpsters taken out. They walk down there almost every day, and they said since that happened, the amount of trash they pick up, they were taking a 40-gallon bag down there and picking up trash almost daily. And it's down to a Walmart bag, so really good.
Get paid to get rid of those dumpsters.
Yep. Yeah,
Just give a free spot for everybody to throw their trash.
it's my backyard.
Boat landings, just as a brief part of the report, if you will, we'll address those in time. It takes big money to address a boat landing, and a lot of hoops to jump through, and it's gonna take some
Yeah.
financial backing to be able to do that right now. Again, you gotta hold on. I know it's, boat landings suck, and I know, just please be patient. They're on the slate to do, we've done a lot of protection, since we got to get. Share.
Well, we've talked about future agenda items and then approximately when our next quarterly meeting would be held. Is there a specific date or day of the week that works the best for you guys as well as this group?
When's the fair this year? First week,
Third weekend in September, I think.
that'd be fifth. So you're gonna be booked.
We could do August, that'd be close to quarter, wouldn't it, basically that?
Any day during the week after 5:30 is good for me, so, or after 5. This is a good time.
Do we want to tentatively say the 28th of August? Will, Thursday, any day? What?
We were just trying to
timing of everything.
Timing of like going to public works, so we have some that need to be in action or really fast action when this meeting is adjourned, we can get it to public works afterwards, so, Trish, what was that date, the 28th of August?
Oh, yeah, that's kind of the date I had been looking at as well. So the next meeting of the County Parks Committee will be August 28th, which is a Thursday at 5:30.
Does 5 work or does it have to be 5:30?
5 works for me, 5 works for you, John.
Well, it depends on if Josh's father-in-law is feeling kind. So
Work on that, John.
I'm gonna have Josh work on that for me. I want to make that statement in public.
He wants 3 p.m.
5 p.m. Lane, is that okay?
Doesn't matter to me.
It's on my calendar.
Okay.
5 p.m. You guys
At
at
5 p.m. on Thursday, August 28th will be the next meeting of the County Parks Committee. With that said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, John. Second? Second by Eric. And all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all, and thank you ladies for all the work and thought you put into here.
Yeah, and the trolling. I like that. I love that. Back before we disbanded,
That's what we did.
That's right. We were up there 3 or 4 days. I would stop in and see her. I'd stop up right as the sun was going down to see.
I got a big dog that alarms for me. She's like, what's going on?
That's okay. Handle it very well, I know, you're the honors. Yeah.
Lot of time. Time is what does it, Eric. Have you and your wife been riding the trail at all, Mr. Herman?
I am.
Still every day?
So,
She was quite consistent.